All right, we're here in Tallgrass Tap House. We're having evening coffee. I really am having coffee here too. Like you can see it in my glass. But with Coach Lowery, we appreciate you coming out. Let's jump right into it. 3 straight wins. There's a question I wanted to ask, and I kind of mentioned to you last night in Norman, was Mike McGurl, after the West Virginia game, gave you a lot of praise and said something along the lines of, Coach Lowery told us we're still the same team. We're still all in there. We can bring it out. Can you shed any more light on that, what conversation was like, what you told the team, and how they maybe reacted to that statement from you?
I think, just letting them know who they are and getting back to that. And sometimes when you don't have all your pieces, you start to doubt stuff. And,
yeah.
We had some instances where Cam and Dean weren't there. And it's hard to imagine both of those guys not really being able to help contribute, and different guys being in the games at different times. And just want them to understand we still had several guys that played in the Elite Eight, so we can't use that as an excuse to not having success.
Does having Cam or Dean and Cam back and both playing well and Barry playing well, does that give the other guys more confidence and kind of let them play with more ease of mind and play better?
I think it's when you have your full allotment of guys and guys who really know what they're doing. That's the key to any successful team. We're older, and when your older guys are all on the floor at the same time, then we're going to have success because, the older you are in college basketball generally means that you're a better team. And we saw it happen to us against Texas. We didn't have Cam or Dean, and Texas scored on us at stuff that doesn't get scored on us by. And it's just it's a fact. We had some of those instances where Sean and Mike were in and they screwed up some switches, and it was one of those situations where we know if that was Cam and Dean, that there wouldn't have been a wide open three. There wouldn't have been an opportunity to make a three. So, but watching film and helping them understand where they needed to be the next day and moving on from it. And even though it's hard and you start 0-2, and we didn't doubt. We just needed to make sure that it didn't creep into their minds, and make sure that we could very well be sitting at 0-5 like West Virginia. But when you have a strong internal engine like Barry, and what he said to those guys was probably the most important thing of the season. If you're not going to play, don't come back out here. And that was the key to the season. And then after the game, I just told him that this is the defining moment of our season. Every season has those defining moments where it changes either your season for the good or it changes it for the bad. And obviously that game, that half, defined where we want to go the rest of the way with getting all our players back and just seeing how it feels different on the court when we're coaching them and they're all there. The attention to detail, we don't have to explain it all the time because they know. They just do stuff intuitively on the court with switches, with Dean back there, with X being able, not having to worry about playing the 4 the whole game, never getting back to the 3 where he's obviously more comfortable at. But because of he's done it, we can play Dean at the 5. We couldn't do that in the tournament because Dean wasn't available, but it still worked for us because our guys were just so rock solid. But now being able to play Dean at the 5 and X at the 4 and playing smaller and just move and play faster and allow Barry to be the downhill guy that he's capable of being is obviously bodes well for us.
I do want to get to, of course, Iowa State and Oklahoma because it's as good of a 2-game stretch as anybody's had in the league this year and about as good as you can have. But in that West Virginia game, something I was curious about or impressed with is not only do you come back from 21 down to win that game, but after you made your runs, there was a couple of times where they stretched it back out, where West Virginia would get it to 7 or get it to 10. And you'll see teams come back from 21 down, but typically not get over the hump. I guess how big of a deal was it to fall back down again and not see your guys deterred and to come back and get that win?
Well, it's the stuff that we always preach with our guys about not giving up and finishing stuff and being completely locked in, and we call it being cut in, and being so like laser sharp focus, and even when you're down you can still be extremely focused, which gives you a chance to come back. And we cut it, and then they hit us in the mouth again and rocked us, and we was like, oh man, but then Barry would do something else again, and Coach said this today. Lost in the whole shuffle of all that stuff is James Love playing 15 minutes, and James Love hadn't been in, and his 15 minutes were so vital and important to that victory that people say, oh, it was Barry's layup, X's 3 that finally got us the lead. But it was James's defense toughness in the trenches for us when we made that comeback. And Sean Neal Williams just played, 10-minute stretch during the guts of that comeback that really helped us defensively and just pushing the ball and being a playmaker for us.
How hard is that for a guy like James Love, who hadn't played yet or hadn't played much yet in the year and probably didn't expect to get in that game, and then his number gets called? How hard is that for a guy to come in and perform well and do what he did?
It's hard because he didn't get back in after, and that's, when you're trying to teach young kids how to be a grown-up, sometimes being a grown-up means you have to do stuff you don't like. And, he got a lot of pat on the backs after West Virginia, and it's been few and far since, and that's the reality of a team. Sometimes the best players shine a lot. Sometimes the guy from the very back can move to the front and be a factor, and he was. And that was the beauty of that game, and that was really, really important to us. And Coach Weber made a huge point of acknowledging James today in practice about, hey, if you don't do that, we have no chance against West Virginia, because we know you got to keep everybody engaged, because when you're outside of the rotation, you can easily fall off and not pay attention anymore. And really, you hear all those stories about guys coming to games and have their warm-ups up and don't have their jersey or nothing on because they know they're not getting in.
Yeah.
And that's, you have to keep your guys engaged so they don't do stuff like that. And that's like legend and lore. 20 years from now, guys will be talking about, remember I didn't wear my jersey for the home game against Oklahoma, and then Coach tried to put me in and I didn't have my jersey. So stuff like that does happen because kids will tune out and they think they're not engaged or involved.
I want to tune ahead to the Iowa State game, which you guys, of course, won 59-58 last Saturday when they were at number 20 in Ames. We could talk in that game, too. We probably should about, Barry and Dean coming back. But another guy who I was impressed with, Carty obviously earned his way onto the bench against West Virginia and then came back and played, I thought, pretty well at Iowa State. We'll talk about the way, I guess, he rebounded from not playing against the Mountaineers and then shooting after the game in Bramlage, and then what he did in Ames against Iowa State.
Well, Carty's decline started at Texas Tech, and we addressed it. And then in the first half against West Virginia, he just didn't play hard enough, and he wasn't where we thought he would be as a third-year sophomore. And you had to humble him, and he sat there and watched us come all the way back and wasn't a part of that victory. And that in itself changed him back to where he needed to get. And obviously he's been playing with reckless abandon again, playing hard, driving, being confident as a shooter. And sometimes, not teaching the kid a lesson, but showing him that when you're not at your best, you hurt your team. And I think that's what happened to him. He knows that when he's at his best, we're really, really good. We're beat Kentucky good when he's at his best. And that's where, we want him consistently, playing at.
Can you speak a little bit about how guys are finding ways to make a positive impact on the game when they come in? Mike's taking a couple of charges in the Iowa State game, took one Oklahoma game. He found Cam in the corner for an open three late shot clock. Carty chased down an offensive rebound again last night. How much of those plays make a difference?
I mean, it's all the stuff we pride ourselves in. It's play our chart, and it's the stuff that we really speak to them on a daily basis about. I know fans get mad at Coach because he says it. Well, sometimes he just says it just to take the light off, how bad of a guy might have played. He just will say, well, we wanted to play our chart, and that takes the deflection off. Dean played really bad today. You know what I mean? And he understands that, and it annoys people. And you're like, what are you talking about? We just lost. But what would you rather have? If you're a parent, would you rather have a guy talk about the player chart, or a reporter ask you negative questions about Dean not playing well, and you totally ignore it? I mean, that's what I want. If I'm a parent, I would want a guy who's standing up for my kid. And as loopy and crazy as it sounds, that's a good thing, because that's why Dean plays hard for him, and that's why our guys trust him, and that's why they stand up for him every opportunity they get. That's not always natural. Sometimes kids go to places just because of school. We're at a place where you come, you go for you find out Kansas State's pretty cool. I like, I know their coaches first. When you get here, it's like, oh wow, this is really a good place. And that's where we are. But that's what you love about this place. When you get here, you love it, and it's a part of your DNA and who you're for the rest of your life. Just because of the way how people treat you and treat our guys, and how nice things are, and it's just a great place to be a student athlete.
We talked about coming back multiple times against West Virginia. You look at that Iowa State game. You guys controlled the first 30, 35 minutes of it, whatever. Then you do get down 7 and get in a scenario where in the last minute you have to do everything right. You have to get a stop, you have to get a make, you have to get a stop, and then get a rebound, and you did it all. I guess what I'm trying to say is, can you remember a game where everything went right, the last minute, and then you go from being down 5 to winning it on basically the last play of the game, and just the resiliency of your team to make all that happen in a place like Hilton Coliseum?
Well, it's kind of ironic. It happened to us at Washington State last year. We led most of the game. They took the lead. We steal the ball. Barry dunks it, and we win. It's kind of same scenario. We got down by 5 with about a minute and a half. Max shot a 3 off the backboard, and we almost lost our mind on him. And then, he gets a big block, awesome rebound, and then we kind of, relaxed and calmed down and go from there. The job Xavier did on Shayak there was unbelievable. We're talking about a guy who was rolling, extremely efficient, leading the league in scoring at that time. And, when you have a guy like Barry and you have a guy like X who can completely cancel people out on any given day, that's that's when you got a really good group who's willing to do both sides of the ball like those guys are.
In the Iowa State game, getting Dean back, even though he didn't score it like he did last night, how much of a positive impact on your offense does that have, just for him to space the floor, whether it be on the pick and pop or the screen and roll and replace, and for the defense to have to respect his ability to shoot it out there?
Well, they were scared of him, and then when he didn't shoot it, they were like, oh, okay. They just started trying to, gravitate toward Barry, and we were like, hey, Dean, you got to do something here, bud. And, him getting that layup kind of uncorked it, and he, obviously felt better after that. But the 9 rebounds and the biggest one off the free throw miss, and then the outlet to Barry, and the rest, he finished it off. But, just having them out there, we just do. And we get mad at them because they do so many things. And, when you're in a program and you have younger guys on the sidelines and you don't talk, like, these guys just do stuff. And, it's a credit to them, and it's an experience. And our defensive schemes are, we'll change them game to game. We'll do stuff, and we'll just say stuff to our older guys, and the new guys will be like, what? Like, what is that? And they'll just do it on the fly and won't talk. And then we scream at the new guys when they don't talk and they don't do it on the fly because they don't have enough experience. And that's what we have with, that first 5 and really with Cardi, those 6 guys that really know what we're doing, both sides of the ball all the time. Mike and Levi, the other 2, that really have a good grasp on really what we're doing and know how to execute and run the stuff we run.
I think we're going to go down the line and talk about every player you have. But one more I want to ask about is Mike, who you just mentioned, because you go to that West Virginia game, and of course he scores 18 and he shoots the ball well, but he'd been playing better defense for a while. Right. And then like Chris said, still making an impact the last couple of games. He was a guy that we thought coming off the tournament was going to be a big-time player, and now just 5 games into the league, he's really kind of come around for you guys.
Right, and he's one of those guys. He played so well West Virginia, he only played 9 minutes. Iowa State, it's one of those deals where, he's still playing behind some good big brothers, and that's our constant preaching with Sean Neal Williams. He's a good player, but you got really good big brothers, and sometimes how good you are is never going to show up when Barry gets 20 and 25. You better be a good cheerleader for your big brother because it's the reality of going somewhere where they got really good older guards, and it happens to Mike, and it even happens to Cardi at times when those guys get going. And Mike's done a good job with his body. Mike's done a good job of learning when it's time for him to do something. I think as a bench guy, you learn it's hard to know when I'm supposed to do something, especially offensively, because if Dean and Barry are going, the best thing I could do is pass them the ball as opposed to try to do something on my own and get out of the context of what we're trying to do. And that's just a part of being a good teammate. But he needed to do something against West Virginia, and he did it, and that's the key. He's learned when I should be aggressive, when I should be a ball mover, when I step up defensively. When I come in, I got to guard who Barry was guard or who X was guard. So he has a very tough assignment. Whether he comes in for Barry or he comes in for X, because he's going to have one of the better guards on the other opposing team to stop.
As it relates to the last possession against Iowa State, didn't take the time out, you let them play. Is that something as a staff you just kind of feel it out as you go, or do you have a predetermined game plan that we're not going to call timeout, or we are, or how does that work? How do you guys handle that?
I mean, we're older now, and I think when you look back at those young, when they were freshmen, we called timeout all the time for them, and if we got them, but they just never went right for us. But as they progressed and got, you don't call timeout because you let them make the plays. We always mess with Dean and joke with him about Texas when we drew up stuff and he's open, he doesn't shoot it, and he looks around and the buzzer goes but if we probably would have just played it out, he might have done something off instinct. But they're freshmen, and we really tried to help them a little bit more. And now as seniors, we really, man, Barry's got it, and Barry learned from Kansas. He didn't walk it up. Yeah. He didn't take his time. He pushed it. We spaced. He goes and makes a play. I mean, and that's a part of coaching and trusting your guys, and it's a part of them getting blown up in film. Like, what in the world are you doing right here? And remembering, and then just going to make plays.
We turn it up now to, last night in Norman, 74-61 win over number 20 Oklahoma. Was it the best you guys have played this year? The Sooners were playing really, they have 7 or 8 really good wins. I thought they were maybe the second or third best team in the Big 12 at that point. And I'm sure as a coach you were nervous, but as a guy watching it, it felt like you were in control more or less from the opening tip. Is that the best you guys have played this year?
I mean, we played pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to say it's the best in a long time. Yeah. We played well in the Virgin Islands. We really played well as a team and shot it and did. And now we kind of did the same thing. We played well, shot it, defended, moved the ball, shared the ball. So that's definitely the best we've played moving forward against a higher level of competition. And, that's where we expect it to be. And sometimes as a coach, expecting guys to get somewhere can be a gift and a curse, especially when you have so many guys back, because in their minds their roles have changed, but you still have the same teammates and you still have the same type of players, and the natural selection of any good program business is when you have stars, the people underneath want to get to that level. And I think we struggled a little bit with that, with guys not knowing their roles. You just got to be better at your role than last year, and by doing that improves you. And that's harder to kind of tell somebody like Xavier Sneed, who's basically always third, A, be better than last year, but still be
Don't take more shots.
The third guy, again, with Barry and Dean. And I think he struggled with that, but he did struggle with playing hard, being a good teammate, doing all the other things that you want your good players to do. He's going to start making shots again. Yeah. And when he does, and coupled with Barry and Dean doing that, that really makes us very, very good.
Yeah, and I obviously think everyone on the court played hard last night, but 2 guys that really stood out to me were X and Mac as well. How important is Mac to your overall defense? Early in that game, he got switched out on James coming off a pick and roll and forced James into a travel because he kept the ball in front of him. What does that do for you defensively to have that versatility?
I think Mac is one of those guys where you look. Mac was where they started. Now Mac's up to speed with Dean, Barry, and all those other guys. He's up to speed with knowing what to do and being able to react and certain things. And Mac's had some unbelievably big-time defensive games that nobody paid it. It's like, oh, okay. It's like Mac didn't do anything today. He had 4 and like 7, and you're just like, well, this guy who's averaging 19 had 6, and you don't really. That gets lost in the shuffle because scoring's at a premium now. I mean, that's where it's at. And blue-collar guys like Mac who do dirty work and don't always get to score it as much as he would want, it gets kind of overlooked. But he's been consistently getting better, and I'm always on Mac, just consistently on him. And he's gotten so much better, and he's going to get better because we got to throw him the ball. And that's, learning. And when I always tell them stories about DJ, nobody knew how good DJ was until we started throwing him the ball. And when you keep throwing a guy the ball constantly, his obviously experience level goes up, but his confidence level goes up. And I think a confident Mac would make us even more dangerous.
Something I hadn't thought about until you just said it, 2 questions ago, was the idea that all these guys come back, right? Cardi and everybody. And the expectation is, boy, they're going to take a big jump. Cardi will, or Mike will, or whoever will. But the reality, like you just said, is all those guys are still left. My point, I guess I'm getting to is Bruce has said a couple times that maybe the team didn't understand, how hard it was going to be, or didn't deal with the success as well as they could. My question is it having a hard time dealing with success, or was it just needing some time to reestablish to these guys, hey, you've improved, but you're still the 5th, 6th guy on our team, that kind of deal. So as you go forward with TCU, do you have faith that the guys are going to deal with success better because now they probably understand their roles again?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it, that at this point, where we want to be, if we didn't change, we wouldn't. We could be sitting 0-5, just like West Virginia. Right. That could be us, and then we'd really be, sad puppies, man. We'd be, but because of the experience and these guys, dug themselves out of a grave and got their heads up. Now their confidence level's in the right spot, but their heart is in the right spot about why are we playing, and playing for each other and doing it, for the jersey and not for the name on the back, and not worrying about, all the other stuff that comes with being a good player nowadays, social media and all that stuff like that can ruin a kid more so than a bad game. Yeah. Typing your name in a box and then searching when you play bad is pretty gruesome for some kids, and them learning not to do it. And we will tell them, you better not, if you don't got thick skin, you better not get on Twitter tonight and type your name in. And that's you have to coach guys like that now, because that's what they do. That's where young people are. They search their name just to see what people are saying about them.
Yeah, looking ahead to TCU, they run some of the similar stuff you guys do with, I'll butcher his last name, the stretch 4 that shoots all the threes. What's
not Brodsky. You're the new one they have.
No, he was there last year. No.
Last year.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And 30 against Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, a lot of pick and pop stuff with a little clearer side of the floor. Does that change how you guys will any of your defensive principles or what you may do going into a game like that?
We're going to do what we do against them. Brodzianski was a problem because he could post.
Yeah.
He was a whole different issue in itself because he was a very efficient offensive inside-out player. So, we're gonna do what we do, and just come ready to play and compete and know what's on the line, and we know the students will be back, and that'll be a factor for us. And we got to play good at home, and for a whole game, and that's something we know it, they know it, our guys know, and that roof could blow off if we come out and play the right way, and we're stressing that to them about playing the right way and knowing what's at stake in front of you. The next 3 or 4 games.
And that's a good way to wrap it up, because that's what I was going to ask about, was you've got, not to look ahead at all because TCU's a fantastic team, will be a big challenge, but you've got home games now, TCU on Saturday, Texas Tech on Tuesday, I believe it is.
And A&M Saturday.
And then, so you've got 2 home games against 2 upper half Big 12 teams with the students back. How big of a difference can the home court be? We talk about this all the time, but Bramlage is great when it's full. I guess just how important is it to get good crowds and good atmospheres these next couple of games at home?
Well, it'll be there because because these guys have played well, and as a student, you look at the scores and you get excited. Well, I'm going back to school next.
Right. Yeah.
I can't wait to get back. And watch our guys are playing well. So I think that'll play into it. Like our guys didn't we haven't even we were. When you start out 0-2, you can't think about what's ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's next game. They didn't even know we had Texas Tech so soon. We were just so consumed with what was in front of us in each game. And I think that's good. Coaches got them just thinking about TCU, and that's it. And then you accomplish that mission, now the next thing you go to is that Tuesday and obviously Texas Tech. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Coach. Congratulations on 3 really good wins in a row, and best of luck against TCU on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.